Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to What's the Next Move. I believe this is our eighth iteration of the program where we talk with companies, organizations, really about workforce development, but more specifically about what they've done either during the pandemic and really kind of like surrounding some of the issues recently of racial equity and a few other like very specific topics. This afternoon is really going to serve as an info session for building and understanding of lab basics. So the Bulb Workforce Development Program. This is in partnership with the University City Science Center and ECLOS Institute. We'll talk a little bit more about the program itself, what some of the benefits to the participants would be throughout the program. We'll also talk a little bit more with the instructors, which I'll introduce in a little bit and give them a chance to introduce themselves, really to talk about what type of skills that you'll be learning during the actual program itself. I believe this time around, there's going to be 5 specific like major skills that folks will be learning throughout the process. And then what we'll do is towards the end, if folks have questions, definitely feel free to unmute yourself. We do have an intimate group. I see more people starting to add on, so I can't say intimate anymore. But we do have a smaller group coming on. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. And let's get started. So with me this afternoon, I have Dara Ruiz Whalen, who is and I want to get the title right, Executive Director and Chief Learning Officer at ECLOS Institute. We also have Ebony Dyson, who is the Education and Senior Instructor at ECLOS Institute. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right off and talk about like you guys specifically. Really brief introduction, maybe 2 minutes introduction, brief history within that time frame, and then we'll jump into specific questions because this is really the show for you guys, primarily because for the audience on, I really want to make sure that they understand some of the things that they'll be learning. So one, let's learn a little bit about you, and then really kind of like dive into what ECLOS Institute is and ECLOS's primary mission.
Okay,
and let's start with Dara. Or
either way, but I'll just jump in. So I'm Dara Ruiz Whalen. Grew up in Philadelphia, still attending actually graduate school at Temple University, Philly Public Schools. I have over 30 years of science education and about 15 years of lab research work under my belt. So I bring a very mixed bag of tricks to the table with me. I've known Phil for over 6 years now. So Phil and I would cross streams and all the science education things that are in Philadelphia, and Philly just happens to be an amazing hub for science and education and finding ways of bringing those two things together. So in 2013, started a program at Fox Chase Cancer Center with my colleague Alana O'Reilly, and it was to train high school students to do cancer research. And it was supposed to be just a one-time operation. We were going to run a 10-week program and then never do it again and go back to our lab research. And it kind of became this thing. It has been jokingly called the runaway train, the juggernaut. It just kept picking up steam. And as a teacher, I said, we can reach 16 kids a year, but if we train teachers, then we can reach all the students in their classrooms. And that's going to be one of my segues to Ms. Dyson right there. And so we started training teachers. Kids were now doing cancer research in their classrooms, aligned with the Philadelphia standards that were in place. The anchors were at the time, and NGSS. So anytime it picked up, we were going to be right in alignment with it. So it started with 2 classrooms, 66 kids, 2 schools, Lincoln High School in the Northeast and Academy at Palumbo down off of Penn's Landing or whatever it is they changed it to recently. And so by 2019, we hit over 1,000 high school students in classrooms, actually collecting authentic cancer research data and sending it back to research labs to move forward. All of the students that did work on those projects, if we get published on those projects, they will be listed as authors. We usually host a giant science day. In 2019, with the over 1,000 students, Fox Chase pulled us in very kindly and said, you folks are awesome. You're science rock stars. we have no place to hold 1,000 students. Our auditorium only holds 325 within fire codes. So we hosted it at the Franklin Institute. We have amazing pictures of, almost 600 kids sitting on the steps of the Franklin Institute. They got to present to all the local researchers in the city. It was amazing. And Fox Chase again came to us and said, we're really proud of the work that you're doing. We don't want to hold you back because of how small we are. Please go out. Here's a release. And we started eClose. We became a company in April of 2019. And to get things started, we kind of jumped right in. We ended up winning 2 of the 3 awards at the Milk and Pen education competition last year. We came in 3rd place in our category at the International Reimagine competition in London last year. We won CIC co-working space at 3675. And we were named the Education Innovators of the Year for 2020. So it kind of snowballed. And one of the things that we do at eClose is we bring all of our people together. We don't let people go. We're not a class that you take and you never hear from us again. We continue the mentorship, the workforce development. All of the employees of eClose are either former students or teachers, because we know how we're training them, and we're training them to believe in equality, not to be what school did you go to? Is it in here, and can we teach you? And if you're not good at this, we're going to find the thing that you're really good at. And so one of the people who is really good at so many things, and I'm never going to let her go, is Ebony Dyson.
Hi, everybody. Woo! It is Terrific Thursday. My name is Ebony Dyson. I am a high school environmental science teacher at Abraham Lincoln High School in the Northeast. I went to Parkway Northwest High School for Peace and Social Justice. Then I went on to study biology at South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and went on to grad school at Cleveland State to get my master's in education, specifically secondary teaching. Then I came and started teaching at the Philly School District, and I met some wonderful people, and they were hosting a program that was training teachers to teach science research in their classes. And me and Dara just became BFFs. That's my homie. That's my road dog. And so she trained me to teach my students how to do lab in the classroom. So that is what we have been doing. I was fortunate enough to bring my 155 students with me to the Franklin Institute in order for them to present their research to everyone else. It was a task, but nonetheless, we all enjoyed ourselves. Now I am transitioning with Dara and doing eClose. They gave me a fancy title, a senior instructor. So now I'm fancy. And it has been a joy and a pleasure to work with Dara as well as Alana and Mr. Phil. So that's my welcome. That's it.
Awesome. So I've known Dara. Dara and I have known each other for 6 years. I've recently met Ebony Dyson this past year, but then I remembered maybe last year sometime I joined an event with eClose Institute. And for those who know about my son Daniel, he's 6 years old. He doesn't really take to people. So Ebony said, "Oh, I'll watch him while you do your presentation thing." I was like, "Okay, great." And he attached himself to Ebony. And then I was like, "Okay, great. He's a great judge of character." So Ebony is an awesome human being. I will say that on record now that it's recording. Everyone in the world will know that. Fantastic. Jumping into more questions. So for eClose, this is, I guess, really specific to Dara. There's been a lot of changes since March. A lot of organizations and companies had to pivot, do a lot of different things. So just in general, just a general sense of things, what has eClose Institute done in light of the pandemic, in light of things that's going on just nationally?
So in light of the pandemic, so this past summer should have been eClose's big entrance into science education programming. We were set to work with 7 different institutes, including UC Science Center and Phil, to do face-to-face programming. And then COVID hit Philly just really hard, along with the rest of the country. And one by one, the calls were like, we're really sorry, we really want to work with you. However, and Phil and I were back and forth, and I looked at him and I said, Phil, we've been trying to find ways to work together. We were finally going to have that project. Do you trust me? And he's like, Dara, anybody else? He's like, I trust you. So I got on the phone with Ebony. I said, Ebony, do you trust me? And she's like, yeah, I'm all in. That's her voice. And so I said, all right, I'm going to shift this entire thing to virtual. We figured out ways of doing it where it was safe to do it, no biohazards in homes, that we could package together. Phil and I put our heads together, and he said, Dara, this is the list of things I want. We hit that list, did as many of those things as we could. And I said, Phil, these are the things that we can safely do in homes. We put together an eClose lab kit. We shipped them out, and people started doing lab science at home. Because we still wanted to reach that national level, we wanted to give students opportunities. We work with several colleges and universities that work with underserved minorities, like California UC Merced, Rutgers Camden, Temple. And what we did is this summer, we actually launched a coast-to-coast undergraduate program, which Ebony Dyson co-taught. And these students came back to us and said, you could not tell that we were not in a room together. We don't want this to be something that only, certain schools or certain populations can do. We want this open to everyone. We write grants, we write collaborative grants. Phil, remind me, I have to talk to you about a grant, by the way. And we have donors that supply scholarships. And the beauty of our programs is that when we ship the kits out, the participants get to keep the kits. So we taught students from 6th grade through retirees this summer virtually at home labs. I don't even want to say it's virtually because it's real. It was 100% FaceTime. It was collaboration. It was interaction. Half the time, if you put screenshots of Ebony and I, it'd be like, did you see that? What's going on? And all of a sudden, we're all up in our cameras. People are holding up their samples to us. We had tons of pictures. At halftime, Phil would be in the background watching. Also, he'd pop and go, what was that? What was that? And he's like, it was so engaging and so amazing. But part of that is the interest level of the participants and the amazingness of the people I get to work with. So we just refuse to let COVID, the pandemic, and any of that stand in our way, because science needs a lot of different voices to succeed. And it hasn't always succeeded in a lot of realms because it's always been one particular voice. And we need everybody bringing their background and their experiences and their culture to the table to be able to cure diseases globally.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece to the program itself, the workforce development program itself. A lot of times folks definitely think that you need to have, a very specific science degree in order to work at life science or tech related company, but it's really, really important that people have workforce experience, whether it's in customer service, retail, whatever. That experience and that culture, as you mentioned, is all really important. All voices need to be at the table in order to succeed, really. Which kind of brings me to my next question. So the Bulb program itself, we ran during the summertime. It was the first time we ran it. It went really successful. There were very, very little roadblocks, I would think, in making those 2 weeks happen. Can either you or Ebony, Dara or Ebony, talk about some of the skills that the participants learned during the summertime, and then kind of like give us a snapshot of what skills the participants would learn this fall?
Eb, you want to talk about the summer, and then I'll I have all the stuff out.
Gotcha. So the summertime, we had an awesome 2 weeks of learning. We did various activities. So we did micropipetting, doing rainbow challenges, being able to aliquot different amounts to get an end result. So we were able to kind of find our niche in that science realm. We not only did that, we ran some gels. We made some fly food. So we kind of dabbled in to so many different techniques that you can literally transform and take into any lab setting to really help you be successful. So if you wanted a baseline of, I know how to do this, that's what we kind of set you all up for, in order to kind of find your niche as to what you're really strong at and what you really enjoy doing, in order to kind of streamline your focus into a specific area of research. And Dara can kind of touch on what's the added pieces.
No, yeah. So last summer when Phil gave me his list, he was like, I want them to learn about DNA. I want them to learn about centrifugation. We call it benchwork boot camp, just the general skills that you walk into any lab and you have to have. And certain understandings with a lot of different things. And so we looked through the list, we found things. And last summer, we did everything from a little bit of biochemistry. We ran DNA gels. All the participants get their own power supply and a gel box. This year, we upped it up a little bit, and they are actually going to do a small forensics project. We work with some amazing companies. I was very fortunate this summer to really connect with companies like Edvotech, and now this year for this fall, Mini PCR Bio, Amscope. So we just have been very fortunate working with companies that are like, we want to help your participants. And so we have all these little packages. And so the students are going to touch on forensics because that's a big, part of what's going on. It's not always people that are studying diseases. It could be what caused, and here's the after effects. So we have that. In terms of the DNA, we're not only going to run the DNA gel, so they get so in labs, they'll have things called columns, and they're going to purify DNA. They're going to run the columns. They're going to run the gels. But this time we wanted them to find out what it was like to go from DNA to RNA to protein. And we actually have things called the central dogma kits, and they're actually going to see these things light up in little fluorescent boxes. One of the things that was on the list that I knew Phil wanted because it's in his heart is ELISA kits. And you're going to be looking at things that are like antibodies and things like that. And we're going to do colorimetrics, and you're going to get a little ELISA kit this year. We're still doing microscopy. Over the summer, we worked with some really great scopes. They were super, super cool. But one of the things that really kind of stuck was they only had a singular eyepiece. And if you walk into any lab, labs just don't have scopes with single eyepieces. So this year we are upgrading those to ones that are binocular, but they come with a camera. So our participants were able to take pictures of everything that they were looking at. They are going to learn about dilutions and solution making. They're going to make their own buffers. They are going to do pH labs. They're going to do a glucose lab, talk about diabetes. They get things like their own centrifuge and their own vortex mixer. They are going to be getting this year, I know I have all my supplies everywhere. It's like so crazy. So they are going to get glassware and plasticware. They're going to get now a stirring hot plate, because last summer, Evan and I will both attest, and Phil probably heard it in the background. It sounded like you heard, and we're like, this is okay. And it was hard to get all the salts into the solution. So they're going to get their own stir plates this year. They're going to get full sets of micropipetters and all the plastics that go with those. And then the other thing that we have definitely enhanced for this year is that they had rolling pipetters, and that's how we would move certain volumes. And Phil and I had a really long, honest talk and said, have you ever seen one of these in a lab, Phil? And he's like, no. Mostly in colleges, because they can buy them in bulk. So this cohort of Bold are getting their own pipette fillers, and you have no idea how excited. I mean, yeah, it's going to be, we need to have people taking pictures when they open up their boxes this year, guys, because, we got a lot of emails saying, oh my God, I'm screaming. And I want to see their faces when they open up the science in a box. So we did upgraded. They're going to get their own boxes of gloves. They do get their PPE. They get their safety glasses, because we do talk about lab safety. We talk about sample storage. So last summer, we ended up sending things out in a freezer bag with a with one of those little freezy bricks. And this year, because we want to make sure nothing degrades, they're getting their own bio freezer box. And these will be put into deep freeze and everything should come out there perfectly. And there won't be any question, they'll be able to pop it in their freezer. So lots and lots of great stuff. When they did their microscopy, they were going to the refrigerators and pulling out fruits and vegetables. So they get all of the little dissection tools. They're going to peel them apart and take pictures in little dissection dishes. And again, the best part that the opportunity that we're able to offer, that eClo is working with UC Science Center and Phil and all these amazing people, is that the participants are going to be keeping their materials. So it's just, we are so excited.
I'm excited just hearing about everything and wondering why I'm not a participant myself. Anyway, what I think the biggest thing that we definitely wanted to make sure folks had was an opportunity to, one, like go through these steps, but then also keep the materials. Some things that some of the cohort participants from this summer kind of talked about was, they share this information with their children, or they share this information with their family and friends. And as kind of like spokespeople in the community for Bulb, this really starts to, leverage the authenticity of what we're doing. All the skills that Dara was talking about and mentioned, I spent maybe 6 to 8 months having conversations with employers about what it means for a person going into a lab setting or just going into a lab environment and having some of these basic skills. So the skills that are being learned are very basic level, but at the end of the day, moving into that environment, moving into that industry, these are all things that folks on all levels need to learn, on all education levels specifically. So Dara definitely answered two of the questions that I had for sure. I think what I'd like to do is just like put my other workforce hat on and talk a little bit about some of the benefits to the program. So the BOLD program specifically, as you heard, all the participants that will go into the program will keep all of the lab kit related things. In addition to keeping lab kit materials, each participant will receive upon graduation a laptop, brand new laptop, really because we're doing our part as much as possible to really combat that digital divide, especially with what's going on right now. It's really important for folks to have multiple devices in their houses to either connect with online learning and other things of that caliber. Each participant will be assigned a mentor within the STEM industry. So the mentor can come from the life science field, the mentor can come from the tech field. And I think of all the things that we offer in relation to this program, I think the mentor component is probably the biggest thing. Over the summer, and probably Dara and Dyson probably got tired of hearing me say this, but the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is so dramatically important for a number of reasons. One, and just to be clear, the BOLD program isn't a job specifically. It is an entryway to some of these other industries and a way for folks to get connected to the life science and tech industry in a very unique way, in a different way. But at the same time, we've received information from companies saying that they're about this, and within the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to be looking for talent within this field. And folks definitely need to have a basic understanding of this. One of the other things that I think in relation to the mentorship piece is that you can have a connection with this person, and then you never know what type of doors they can open for you in moving forward with your career, what you're planning on doing moving forward, all of the above. Each participant also receives a short stipend, a small stipend, nothing to go to the bank with, but a stipend nonetheless. We do know folks are taking out their time to go through this program. And at the same time, we definitely want to compensate folks as much as possible. They are attendance-based and performance-based. So we definitely want to be clear about that as people come in. The program itself will be from November 9th to November 20th. 2:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. Over the summertime, we did have the program in the morning time. But, with homeschooling and a lot of different things happening, we definitely wanted to open it up to a bigger audience. Or really just testing it out. But we definitely wanted to open it up to the parent groups, especially if they're doing homeschooling during the day. We don't want to take away from that educational learning as well. But we definitely want to open it up for these times as well. And honestly, that's it. I think the biggest thing that is really important for this program is that it's a way for folks to connect to the life science and tech-based community in a way that's going to enhance your career, in a way that's going to, you're going to come out on the other end with, some things that we're going to be giving you. But again, like the biggest thing is connections. Connection to the Science Center, connection to eClose Institute, connection to the instructors who have their list of networks and folks that they know, connection to just this broader community of STEM teachers and STEM students and all across the city of Philadelphia. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this program as the graduates as the graduates move from, doing the program to graduating from the program. So I'm looking at the time now. We're at 4:26. If folks have questions in the audience, definitely feel free to unmute yourself. I know because we put it together. We do know that applications do close tomorrow at 5 p.m. You could definitely go on the University City Science Center's website under workforce development. The application is there if folks are interested. And I guess I'm just putting Dyson's and Ebony and Dara's kind of like contact information out there. If you have questions specifically for the instructors, Dara, Ebony, is it okay that folks can get in contact with you, or what's the best way for them to contact you?
You have my email, and then I'll send you out the eClose email that Ebony uses.
Perfect. All right, so let's open it up for questions if folks have them. I know we have half an hour goes really quickly for an info session, so let's just open it up if folks have questions right now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So if you supposedly not getting accepted this time, not getting picked this time, is there any other time in the future that you guys gonna reopen the same program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we want to try and do is connect as much as possible with the folks who are open. All right, so I think you were breaking up a little bit, but if I got the gist of your question, you're asking when the next program, like if you're not accepted for this program, when the next program will be. I wish I could give you a date and say, hey, we're going to do it during the first quarter of 2021. But a lot of things kind of go into play right there. What I've done is I've kept a list of folks who have applied from the first cohort and from this cohort. And then before we have an actual date for the next cohort, what we'll try to do is send that information out to folks so they know ahead of time when the next program is happening. But I wish I could give you a solid answer and say, hey, on March 2nd of 2021, that's when we're gonna have our next program. But there's a lot of things that have to go into play. We make sure our partners are good with this and a lot of other things. But if you can just email me or send me kind of like your information, I think what we can do is just make sure you're on a mailing list and we can send information out to you with some of those updates later on down the road.
Hi, what are you guys looking for as far as like applicants goes? Are you looking for the younger groups, so that they have the opportunities? Or are you looking for folks that are established? And how many are you accepting? I'm sorry, I'm like, give me 10 million things.
It's all good. So right now in this cohort, we're accepting 12 folks. We really want to be able to accept a range of folks. I think the initial intention was to cater this towards individuals who have been in the workforce already for a number of years. If you've just recently graduating from high school, you can totally apply and get in. If you've been in the workforce and have done customer service for 20 years, if you've just retired, if you've been in retail for a number of years, anything kind of applies to this. But with the original intention was for folks who have been in the workforce already, so we can get this lab basic skills under the belt in addition to their work experience already. If that answers your question. So we are looking for a large group of folks. We also want that group of folks to be diverse, for sure. We also want to make sure opportunities are open for a mixed group.
No, definitely. For me, I've been, I'm a teacher, but I'm looking into moving to a different direction. You have mentioned about, equity and all that stuff. And I've been wanting, I teach in a low income area. And so I've been wanting to build a maker space for my community, for my students that doesn't have those, opportunities. So
Yep.
when this came about, I just thought there was just an exciting opportunity and a way to connect with folks. So this is exciting. So, I'm crossing my fingers and I'm hoping because I really think that this is needed. So if you can think, I teach in Darby. So if you know the neighborhood in Darby is outside Southwest, that's the demographic I want to reach.
Yep, absolutely. And I know Dara is thrilled about you being a teacher. So I'll just leave it at that.
I appreciate that. I need the support. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. So I think we might have time, Jake, maybe for like one more question, or if any questions came in the chat. We have a few more moments. Or Ebony or Dara, if you have any kind of like closing remarks or anything you wanted to add from what we've done this summer, what we plan on doing this fall.
I mean, Ebony and I are just really, excited. We're working through things. Some of the things that we're tossing around, we might be getting together very shortly and shooting some videos that are instructional, that are very specific to what we're doing, because what we wanted to do is make sure that the participants were ready. Leave a session comfortable, walk into the next session ready, because everything that we're doing and all of the add-ons and as I was looking through and going, wow, we added a lot in this for this 2 weeks, but we've got that. It's okay, because they're the pieces that are bridging concepts, and that was a huge thing that we were so trying to let's get this to work. And a lot of people were still feeling their way around the virtual thing. We are going to be working with some LMSs. We do use Schoology, and we were ridiculously fortunate to create a collaboration with LabXchange out of Harvard University. Everything that we use is freeware. We do not use things that require you guys to get spammed by 1,000 different things or cost any money. So we do use Schoology and LabXchange. We've modified everything. I think, Dyson, we got everything into Google content, didn't we? So that way it was shareable.
Yes, and I think the last thing I just kind of want to throw in there is that although it seems like it might be a lot or structured, like, oh my goodness, this is going to be so overwhelming, it is not. It is definitely user friendly, it's age friendly, it is everything friendly you can think of. We've tried to modify from the summer experience to now to make sure that it is definitely friendly for all the users and anyone that is definitely interested and is going to be a part of both. So I guess my little closing remark is that I do hope to see some of you in this cohort that's coming up, and I look forward to experiencing and working with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So thank you all for joining this evening. I know just in light of what's been happening this week, several other folks and several things are happening through Venture Cafe. I strongly encourage you to take part of that. This evening, I'm definitely going to hop on to some of the conversations that's happening a little bit later on this evening. Philadelphia is my home. Philadelphia is amazing, but we've been challenged so much in the past several months, and especially this week. Definitely encourage you to tune in to some of the other Venture Cafe things that are happening this evening. On just behalf of me, on behalf of Ebony Dyson and Dara, thank you for attending this session. Again, this was an info session for the building and understanding of lab basics. Applications close tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll see some of you for the next cohort.